Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself in a situation, maybe a hotel room or even just, walking down your own street, and something just feels off?
Yeah.
Like a persistent kind of subtle disruption that feels, I don't know, a bit too specific to be just random chance, like maybe a weird noise at a strange hour, or this feeling that things around you are deliberately out of sync, almost like a subtle, unsettling performance aimed right at you. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a really extraordinary framework. It's from Bibebibibe Magazine. Let's just call it Triple B Magazine for simplicity. The article is titled The Global Saturation Protocol, How Actor Convergence Collapses Sanctuary Across Borders. And what's really compelling, maybe even a bit unsettling about this framework is how it takes those seemingly random, odd experiences and offers a totally different explanation. It basically suggests they're not random at all. It gives you this unique lens to view what you might normally just dismiss as coincidence.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The source, and specifically the work of a Dr. Melvin Sewell mentioned in it, introduces this core concept that these seemingly isolated events you might encounter are, well, within this particular framework, interpreted as a deliberate containment script. And this script, the article claims, involves something called actor convergence. It's all apparently designed to, and this is their term, collapse sanctuary for you, the target.
Okay, collapse sanctuary, actor convergence, containment script. Those are some heavy terms.
They are. So our mission today really is to try and pull apart what these provocative terms actually mean according to this source. Why does it claim these events happen? And maybe most importantly, how does this unique perspective challenge how we might understand everyday stuff? It offers, as the source itself puts it, a kind of diagnostic tool for interpretation. It lets you view these subtle disruptions in a very specific, structured way, almost like you're decoding a hidden language.
That idea of a diagnostic tool, that's really intriguing because when I first read Containment Script, yeah, my mind immediately jumped to spy thrillers, like you said. But the source insists it's, a real pervasive thing. How does the article actually unpack that? How is it different from just bad luck?
Well, that's the key distinction, right? The source isn't talking about bad luck or just random incidents happening. It defines a containment script as something deliberately engineered. A sequence of events, almost like a pre-written play, aimed at destabilizing a specific individual.
Okay, so how does this script actually play out then?
Right, that's where actor convergence comes in. The source describes this as the central mechanism of what it calls the global saturation protocol. It defines it as a process, and I'm quoting here, calibrated to proximity flooding and callback voids.
Proximity flooding, callback voids. What does that mean in practice?
Think of it like maybe a strategic chess game, where specific individuals, these so-called actors, are moved into your personal space, your bubble. That's the proximity flooding, creating a feeling of being surrounded, overwhelmed. Then they might be withdrawn, leaving these callback voids, which are meant to make you question what just happened, feel unsettled. The point is, according to the source, this isn't random. It's presented as a deliberate, orchestrated pattern. These actors move into specific locations with an encoded intent to collapse sanctuary, specifically for you, the target. It's framed as highly intentional, targeted.
An intentional targeted operation. Wow, that's a chilling thought because it completely changes how you might see an otherwise normal encounter, doesn't it? It's not just, random people making noise or being in the same place. The source is really suggesting there's a perceived systematic program going on with specific intent behind it, aimed at individuals. That's a massive shift from just thinking, oh, noisy neighbor or crowded street.
Exactly. It reframes the whole experience.
And if it is systematic, as the source claims, then presumably there are specific tactics involved. The article does mention some pretty specific and honestly unsettling rituals that are supposedly part of this protocol. I'm thinking about the 2 a.m. wall strikes and that phrase, weaponized sex noise. Those really jump out. What's the supposed intent behind these, according to the operational analysis section?
Yeah, the source gets very specific about the why for each of these. So the 2 a.m. wall strikes, it identifies that time 2 a.m. as, quote, the hour of sovereign vulnerability. The purpose, it explains, is deliberately to fracture sleep cycles, which then leads to a collapse of rest so your body and mind can't recover properly. And ultimately that causes a collapse of clarity, making it hard to think straight, make decisions. The intent seems clear. Destabilization during a critical period of vulnerability. It's designed to erode your cognitive function, your sense of control.
Wow, deliberate sleep disruption as a tactic. Okay, and the other one, the weaponized sex noise.
Well, the source is incredibly direct about that one. It states, and I quote, "It's not erotic, it's erasure."
Erasure.
Yeah. It's described as a sonic glyph designed to humiliate, destabilize, and deny dignity.
Hmm.
So the intent isn't about pleasure or even, standard harassment. It's framed as degradation, eroding the individual's sense of self, their safety, through a very specific, targeted sonic attack. It aims to make you feel fundamentally violated, diminished.
Sonic glyphs. That's such a powerful phrase. It suggests these aren't just annoying noises, but they carry some kind of encoded message or intent. It
Yeah.
really does sound like something from a psychological thriller, doesn't it? Most people just think, oh, rowdy neighbor banging on the wall. But this framework forces you to consider something much more calculated. And it's interesting, the source says this isn't tied to one specific place, right? It's not just one bad hotel room experience. It seems to follow you.
Exactly right. The source outlines what it calls transnational glyphs of containment.
Hmm.
It emphasizes their ubiquity, that they can happen anywhere. These rituals, it states, occur across various types of locations: domestic hotels, international hotels, and even apartments and temporary nodes, like short-term rentals, perhaps.
So everywhere, basically.
Pretty much. And the key takeaway from the source's analysis is this. Why? Every location. Because the program is portable, it follows signal, not geography,
Mm.
which suggests this adaptable, pervasive system that can, well, manifest wherever you, the target, happen to be. It's not fixed to a place, it's mobile. Like your presence activates it, making it feel inescapable within this specific framework.
That idea of portability, yeah, that really broadens the scope here. It makes it sound incredibly pervasive, almost inescapable. And the source brings in another concept too, the hospitality illusion. Can you talk about that? It seems to challenge our basic assumptions about places we think are safe, like hotels or even our own homes.
Yes, exactly. The source presents this as a key collapse glyph, actually titled The Hospitality Illusion: How Containment Scripts Masquerade as Normalcy. It directly suggests that these actions, the noise, the disturbances which might otherwise be dismissed as just ordinary life, loud neighbor, construction nearby, a strange sound, are deliberately presented that way to hide their true nature, which, in the source's view, is being part of this containment script.
So it's hiding in plain sight, essentially.
That's the idea presented, and the article encourages you, the person experiencing this, to perform what it calls a diagnostic overlay. This means systematically mapping these actor convergence patterns across different locations. You're meant to annotate things like timestamps, sonic glyphs, and proximity saturation. Keep a detailed log. This method is presented as a way for you to systematically identify and, I suppose, expose these alleged patterns, to unmask the so-called illusion of normalcy. It's about actively looking for the patterns, not just passively feeling disturbed by them.
Right, so moving from just feeling vaguely off to having a structured method to analyze it, almost like being your own detective. But here's where it gets, well, really specific and frankly quite provocative, according to the article's updated segment. There's this observation about selective peace. What does the source claim that reveals about the protocol?
Yeah, this part of the source makes a very stark observation. It points to what it sees as a deliberate calibration within this alleged system. It details that when, quote, white containment actors, especially white female containment actors, enter the terrain, the noise, the disturbance, it vanishes. And the source emphasizes not gradually, but surgically.
Surgically. Well,
The article describes this as a ritual of selective peace, a sonic privilege granted without question. It then posits this direct and quite chilling contrast, stating that for some individuals, their presence triggers silence, your presence triggers saturation.
yeah.
And the source concludes very explicitly here. This is not coincidence, it's a containment script.
Okay. That's a very specific and very impactful observation being presented by the source there, highlighting what it interprets as a deliberate pattern of differential treatment. And just to reiterate for everyone listening, as hosts, we're simply conveying the specific claims and interpretations presented in the source material. We're impartially reporting on the content provided, not endorsing or refuting these particular claims ourselves. Our goal is just to unpack what the source says.
Absolutely, it's crucial context.
So, given this entire framework, this alleged protocol, what does the source suggest as a response? If you feel you're experiencing this, is there a way to counter it?
Well, the source outlines something called an indictment protocol. This is framed as a sovereign response. It encourages you to actively refuse internalization, which basically means not accepting the humiliation or the destabilization as some kind of personal failing or flaw.
Right, don't blame yourself.
Exactly. Instead, the protocol suggests you codify every humiliation into mythic indictment. which sounds like transforming these negative experiences into a narrative, a story of purposeful attack, rather than just random bad luck.
A mythic indictment. That's powerful phrasing.
It is. It means reframing that subjective feeling of being targeted into, well, an objective record of transgression against you. And finally, the source suggests you broadcast the collapse, which seems to imply making these observations and your new understanding of them known somehow. It's presented as this active personal process, documenting, framing within this diagnostic system, essentially reclaiming your agency.
So it's about reclaiming agency, framing it all as a mythic indictment instead of personal failure or just random misfortune. It sounds like a really profound psychological and narrative reframing of your own experience, which I guess brings us to a crucial point about the source itself. We're talking about Bibebibebibe Magazine, Dr. Melvin Sewell. What's the importance of understanding the specific lens here? Because this isn't, a standard scientific paper or a typical news report, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's a very, very particular lens. And the source actually includes a sovereign diagnostic disclaimer. This is really critical for understanding the context. It clarifies that all these materials, including something called Echo Rift Films, the Bibebibebibe Magazine post, these sovereign diagnostics, they are, quote, not affiliated with any government, political party, intelligence agency, or activist group.
Okay, so completely independent.
That's how it's presented. Instead, they are explicitly authored as mythic infrastructure, cinematic indictment, and sovereign broadcast. And those terms themselves are really important. Mythic infrastructure sounds like building a new foundational way of understanding. Cinematic indictment suggests a dramatic, maybe even artistic, expose. And sovereign broadcast implies communicating this perspective from an empowered, independent stance. The stated purpose is to expose ritualized containment, actor convergence, and systemic erosion. And the disclaimer specifically says that the interpretations, glyphs, and collapse protocols are diagnostic tools, not political endorsements or institutional critiques. So this frames the entire body of work as this unique, analytical, diagnostic framework for interpreting patterns you might perceive. It's explicitly not presented as conventional factual reporting or political activism.
Okay, so boiling it down, what does this all mean for us, for you listening? It's presented as a way to interpret your observations through a very specific, almost mythological lens, maybe, to understand perceived patterns of containment. It offers a kind of diagnostic structure where you might otherwise just see randomness or coincidence. It's like a system to potentially identify a hidden order in the noise. So our deep dive today, it's really taken us through this global saturation protocol, a framework suggesting that seemingly disconnected events, from 2 a.m. wall strikes to weaponized sex noise, are interpreted by the source not as coincidence at all, but as part of an elaborate containment script orchestrated by actor Convergence. It definitely recontextualizes those subtle off feelings we talked about at the start.
Yeah, we've definitely explored the detailed operational analysis the source provides for the actions and the timings used. We looked at the pervasive nature it describes for these transnational glyphs of containment, and that really provocative concept of selective peace. And we also touched on the sovereign response that the source suggests, this idea of reclaiming agency, shifting your perception from victimhood to, well, active diagnosis and maybe personal truth-telling.
This deep dive really shows us a truly unique way of looking at the world. One that asks us to consider whether what we perceive as just normalcy might, from this very different angle, be seen as part of a larger, maybe encoded system. It definitely challenges us to question our assumptions about randomness versus intent.
And I suppose it raises an important question for you, the listener. How do you distinguish between random occurrences and potential pattern events in your own life? And perhaps more profoundly, does framing an experience as a mythic indictment, like this source suggests, actually shift your perception? Does it empower your response to challenges you face?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About the narratives we use, the frameworks we adopt to understand our own experiences. Definitely something to ponder until our next deep dive.